Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and these are Night Terrors. How y'all doing? Just having a great day personally, and an exciting day too. Last night's episode, if you missed it, if you didn't catch it, it was absolutely off the charts. It was really a great show. We had a special guest, Mr. Vic Cundiff of Dogman Encounters Radio, and he stayed on for over 2 hours, and we talked to him and bent his ear about just about anything and everything about the Dogman that we could think of, and had a great discussion. It was by far one of our most successful live broadcast ever, and it's still really doing really well. Lots of people are checking it out, and thank you all of you who were a part of that and are a part of it today. It just really is cool. It's just, we have a lot of great episodes, don't get me wrong, but there's some like that one last night that are just so exciting and fun, and the conversation is just so on point and clicking. It just flew. It was just so incredibly effortless. And I really liked having him on the show, and we'll definitely have him back. He's agreed to come back again. Just got to figure out when that will be. But thank you to all of you who took part in that and have spread the word about that show. It was just a lot of fun and excellent. So I'm here with the Night Terrors, and if you're new to the show, if you might have just bumped into us and are starting to understand what the Paranormal Portal is, the Night Terrors are 1-hour episodes, roughly, and we cover just mostly ghostly encounters, so it's just spiritual activity. I don't know how you feel about that, but I love these kind of stories as well, because I think that, of all the phenomena, the most widely encountered, the most commonly encountered paranormal phenomena is most definitely spiritual or ghostly encounters. So this is the one that people are dealing with most often. And I've had several ghostly encounters in my own life. And if you're not familiar with those, if you've heard me interviewed on another show, or if you've been through our archives, you'll find many times that I bring it up. But there's a Bedtime Stories from Beyond. It's called Walking in My Shoes, I think, where I kind of outlined the most impactful of my paranormal encounters. So you can definitely check that out. It's in the archives here on YouTube. And there's over 800 videos in our archives, so there's lots to check out in between shows if you want to check out more of the Paranormal Portal. But we got a great show lined up for you tonight. It's just me and a whole bunch of ghostly stories. So I hope you're excited about that. But the other part of tonight is that if you want to call in, you've got something paranormal of your own to share, I'd love to hear from you. And the number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. The number is right up there where my finger is pointing to. If you are looking for it later, like, oh yeah, I was going to tell them about this. What's that number? There it is. It's right up there. Right there. So it's always there for your viewing entertainment for those of you on YouTube. And tonight, it's only those of you on YouTube. We're not broadcasting anywhere else, so you've got the exclusive show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And the broadcasting schedule is Wednesday through Sunday nights. Monday, Tuesday, I take off just to do prep and other projects for the shows oftentimes. So I need some extra days. I used to broadcast 7 days a week, and it was fun, but it was just a lot of work, and I was finding that I couldn't really implement new ideas because I had nowhere to squeeze them in and work them out. So that's why I take Mondays and Tuesdays off. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all are ready, because it's time for bed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that makes it official. We are now underway here on the Paranormal Portal, Night Terrors, and I've got a bunch of stories pulled up here for your listening pleasure. The first one's kind of a really long one. I'm just wondering. You know what? I already read this one. So good thing I double checked it, because I've done that many times. But the first story tonight is actually going to be one that kind of falls into the cryptid category. And some of you may or may not be aware of this, but it's about a skinwalker. And it's an encounter somebody had in Arizona. So this kind of falls into that weird gray area. The skinwalkers are not necessarily a cryptid, but they're not necessarily a spirit. It's like there's something in between. They're like kind of a person. They're kind of a supernatural being, and they're kind of the spiritual thing as well. They are really hard to nail down what the hell they are, but let's dig into it and find out what this person experienced. So, again, it comes from Arizona, and it says, let's hold on. As half Navajo and Hopi, I've had my share of experiences on and off the Navajo and Hopi res. I hope that I won't get any ridicule from any other Native Americans for posting these experiences. One experience that I'd like to share happened when I was 14 years old, and I'm now 26, or 29 rather. This was an experience that I have only shared with a small number of people, and I'm now writing this down for the very first time. My brother, who is a hardened soldier, is still scared about what happened to us this particular evening. On to the story. As a teenager, I'd visit my grandmother at her home on the Native American res for several weeks every summer. I loved to spend time with her and eat her delicious fried bread and hear her tell us stories, and every so often my grandmother would hire a worker. He was the harmless town drunk, just to do odd jobs around her house and property. One evening, right before the sun went down, I was asked by my grandma to take him home, which is about 4 miles out into the valley where she lived. I was more than happy to, seeing that I was only 14 years old and was asked to drive a truck. Mind you, that on the res, nobody cares that you're only 14 years old and driving around. Hell, there's hardly anybody around to see you anyway. So my 9-year-old brother jumped in the truck cab with me, while this worker and my dog shared the tailgate of the truck, and we were off. After I dropped the worker off at the shack that he and his brothers called a house, we headed back down the road, back to Grandma's. As I mentioned before, it was evening, and the sky was a deep red as the sun began to set behind us. We were leaving a nice dust trail from the dirt road, and the radio was playing music from the only radio station that would be picked up in the nearest town of Holbrook, Arizona. There's nothing unusual, nothing weird. It was just that it was at this time that my eye caught movement of something in the bushes, a little up the road and to the right of us. I remember slowing down, thinking that it must be one of the many free-roaming sheep in the area that would dart out in front of the truck, and as I passed where I thought I saw it, I sped up, thinking nothing else about it. Then out of nowhere, I just felt this dark feeling of fear and dread. I had no idea why I was feeling this way, but I definitely felt that something was wrong. As I play this memory back in my mind, there are only a few clear memories that I have of that evening. I clearly remember looking in my rearview mirror and seeing the dark silhouette of something very tall and very skinny that seemed to be covered with some kind of hair or fur running behind the truck after us. Whatever it wasn't a normal human or even human at all. I remember hearing my brother crying and my dog barking ferociously at whatever was chasing us. I remember speeding very fast and shaking violently as the truck bounced on the washboard dirt road, and I distinctly remember that this thing was only getting closer as my brother cried, "It's coming up on your side." I remember being as scared as hell and thinking that I didn't want to die. At that moment that I thought I would be our last, I remember speeding around a bend in the road and seeing a car coming towards us in the opposite direction. At that moment, I felt instant relief and felt that whatever was following us was gone. Shaken up but alive, we made it to Grandma's house, wondering what the hell had just happened. We ran inside, not even looking back, hoping that whatever was chasing us had not followed us home. As we told my grandmother about our experience, she didn't seem too surprised, which really surprised us. She continued by repeating stories that we had already heard at one point or another about black magic, witches, and something that the Navajos call Yi Nadlushi, or skinwalkers. Needless to say, I didn't even want to look out the window at all the rest of that night. As a matter of fact, I never drove on the reservation that night until I was 21 years old. Without going too deep into explanation, I'll just say that these skinwalkers are evil men and spirits that use black magic for evil doing. I tell you that as far-fetched as it may sound, they are real. I believe that if God and his greatness are real, the devil is equally as real and also has his ways of showing himself. This may not sound very scary to some readers, and that may be due to my lack of writing skills, but what happened that evening really did happen and scared the living crap out of me. I invite anybody to visit this part of Arizona. If you have any doubt or want a huge scare, I promise you that you will not be disappointed. I hope you enjoyed my story, and I look forward to sharing other experiences soon. Wow. That's kind of neat. In fact, this author has authored a few other ones, and I guess we'll just read his stories, because I kind of like that. I kind of like going into this other little angle of the spirit realm, as it were. Let me just keep opening these, and we'll just read them all. They authored 5 stories total, so we'll see what else they've experienced. Excuse me. This same person wrote about Skinwalker Ranch. Apparently, let me see. That's weird. No, I guess it's not. Never mind. Is it not the same author? Oh, no, these were just... No, okay, so these are other Skinwalker stories. I'm sorry, I thought it was the same author, but it's not. All right, so these are other Skinwalker stories, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'll tell you this, that the Skinwalker phenomena is considered very dark, very darkly sacred to the First Nations, the Navajo and the Hopi. They don't talk about it. They don't talk about it because it's their belief that by talking about it, you are calling to this thing, and you're calling it to you. And so there's a reason they don't talk about it, and that's the reason as I understand it. And it's very, very tight-lipped historically in the tribes, and it's only discussed under very specific circumstances because they believe that talking about these things is very bad luck and will bring bad things to you. So to find stories about these from Native Americans, I think is really powerful because there's a lot we just don't know about it. Maybe some people do, but and there's information out there. Don't get me wrong, but I always like the information from the people whose legends these are. And from what I understand about the Skinwalkers is they're incredibly dark, horrible things. I don't know what to call them. I don't know that they're a physical thing. I don't know that they're a spiritual thing, as I mentioned before. But one thing seems to be consistent in the stories of the Skinwalkers is that one, they seem to be found in graveyards. And allegedly they're digging up dead bodies. Now the reason they're doing that is because they're harvesting bones from the dead. And apparently they can put curses on people by inserting these bones into the other person's body. And it's a deadly curse. But oddly enough, the people that get attacked in such a way don't feel it happening. We covered a story one time about this younger girl, like a teenage girl, and her sister or cousin. They were dealing with a skinwalker, and the grandmother became aware of what they were dealing with, and she went in the fireplace, put the shotgun shells in the fireplace ash, because that's apparently hard, or that can kill them. The skinwalkers. It has to be the fireplace ash. Like the shotgun shells are put in the ash, or they grab ash and put it on the fireplace, or put it on the shotgun shells, and that imbues the rounds with a lethal load for these skinwalkers. But the grandmother did go out and shoot at this thing, but when she came back, she had a small spot of blood on her arm. And they were like, "Grandma, what happened to your arm?" And she's like, "Nothing." She didn't notice anything, but they called him a shaman over, a medicine man, and he did a ritual, and they watched as this medicine man pulled a 2-inch bone out of her shoulder that she didn't realize was even in there, and it wasn't her bone. So they got it out of her, which in essence allegedly breaks that curse, which is good. But yeah, so I don't know what's going on here. It's a weird topic, very strange, but it's kind of cryptid, and it's kind of dark magic, and it's kind of dark spirituality, and it's all kinds of weird. So we're going to get into some more of these. So let's keep rolling on this topic here and see where these other stories bring us. Kind of feels right after following a big dog man night to go into something like Skinwalker, which is like a foot in both worlds, spiritual and cryptid almost. So this one's coming out of Utah. It has to do with Skinwalker Ranch, apparently. It says, Vernal is about 3 hours away from Salt Lake City, and quite honestly, it is a total backwater town that has no city codes whatsoever. You can pretty much have a cow in your front yard, and you won't get a fine. Vernal is a little bit behind, meaning they don't have any major entertainment places, and they only have one Walmart, which is pretty awesome considering Walmart has taken over the world. But more on point, Vernal contains one of the places I would love to see. Vernal is home to Skinwalker Ranch. Now, this sounds gross, like a nudist ranch, but believe me, it isn't. You can actually read a book about it. It's called The Hunt for the Skinwalker, and you can also watch some videos on YouTube about it. My sister lived about 40 minutes from this ranch, and I believe that whatever resides on this ranch also haunts the neighboring properties, and whatever else is close. A skinwalker is a type of witch that can take an animal form of their choice, based on Navajo Indian legend, and instead of healing a person, the skinwalker will curse you. According to my brother, who is a friend of a Navajo Indian, the witch can only become a skinwalker by killing a close friend or relative. I've heard that as well. They do not talk about it or think about it because it is believed that once you acknowledge it, they will find you. But back to my point, while I was in Vernal visiting, I ended up sleeping on the couch, and just before I went to sleep, I heard this whispering in my ear. It was a loud, commanding whisper, and when I repositioned myself on the couch to find the source of the voice, my sister's dog came running out of the hall. She just stood there, looking at me, and then laid down by the couch next to me and made a whimpering noise. To me, it seems that Vernal has a lot of haunting, and I firmly believe they stem from Skinwalker Ranch. It has a history of hauntings, UFOs, cattle mutilations, a wolf that can look into the window of a truck without standing on its hind legs, and pretty much 480 degrees of complete weirdness. 480. So that's way more than 360. And that's the whole story. So I mean, they didn't really cover that much, but that did bring up some important beliefs about the Skinwalker, which I've also heard referenced before. So I think that at least is credible. So the next one is coming from New Mexico. And this may be a skinwalker, but it could either be a ghost man or a skinwalker. They're not sure. It says, I live in Gallup, New Mexico, a city surrounded by Native American culture and history. We have many surrounding towns and reservations that have been here for a long time, and many people claim they're haunted. My experience actually takes place right in Gallup, on the east side of the city near a very small reservation. My best friend visited her sister every weekend, who lived in the low rental apartments on the east side. Right across from these apartments is an elementary school, the one I actually attended when I was a little girl. During these weekends, I would spend the night with my friend at her sister's apartment. At night, when there was absolutely nothing to do and the kids and parents were asleep, we'd go outside into the park that was right there in the middle of the apartments and just chill. One night we became so bored we actually took off walking. I'd say it was about 2 a.m. and we were used to being up so late, so we were wide awake. And of course, like any teenage girl wanting to stay up late, well, we walked behind the apartments where there is no light and tons of bushes and prairie dog holes in the ground. As we were walking, I sensed that someone was staring at us, even following us. I'm very sensitive to these kinds of things, so usually when I sense someone is looking at me or following me, I'm absolutely right. So I turned around to look, and nothing was there. As I turned to look forward, my friend suddenly grabbed my arm and said in a scared whisper, "Oh my God, what was that?" Well, I looked into the darkness and I didn't see anything. The wind was slightly blowing that night, and there were a few trees ahead of us, so I passed it off as the wind moving the leaves, and I told her, "It's just the wind, dude. Chill out," and kept walking. But as I looked again, I saw what looked like a black figure moving through the trees. I stopped and said, I think it might be a drunk crashing out back there for the night." So I wouldn't scare the crap out of my friend. I kept a calm voice, which was really hard for me to do because I was sensing that this thing in the trees wasn't a nice personality. I said, "Do you want to go back home?" And she said, "No, we're almost to the store. Let's just keep going." So as we kept walking, we heard movement in the trees, a swift, fast movement, and we started walking faster, like we were power walking, and I heard something behind us. And I looked, and it looked like a wounded or maybe even a hurt dog. I wasn't really scared because where I live, there's a lot of that. But what I heard next stopped me dead in my tracks and paralyzed me from my legs up. I heard this dog moan and growl at the same time as if it wanted me for a midnight snack. Well, I literally couldn't move, and my friend who was trying to distract me saying, come on, we gotta run." But her screams sounded distant, as if I'd gone deaf or as if she was really far away. I had made eye contact with this thing, and I knew that was a bad decision. I closed my eyes and said a short prayer without even thinking. I turned around and ran for my life with my friend close by my side. I tried not to look behind us, but something was telling me to look, so I glanced behind us, and the man was running for us. But he wasn't just running, he was on his hands and knees. I screamed, and my friend joined in only because I scared her when I yelled. We ran faster and finally got to the road where there was light and cars passing. We had run for about 7 minutes straight and were completely out of breath. I remember our sides aching and cramping, and we stopped to catch our breath, and I turned to look behind us again and saw the man way in the distant darkness running back to where he had come from. We walked not even 2 minutes and finally got to the store. The lady behind the counter gave us a weird look and asked us, "Are you girls okay?" We replied out of breath, "Yes, just a late night run." I could tell she didn't believe us, so she asked, "Did you girls run from the apartments?" And I answered, "Yeah, why?" And she said, "Oh, are you girls sure you're okay?" Well, we looked at each other, and my friend told her, "Well, not really. We just had a horrible encounter with something. We don't know what it was or who it was." The lady said, "Girls, you just ran from a skinwalker. Whoever it was always chases someone he catches walking the road at night. You girls are lucky you made it this far." As if we weren't shaken up enough already, what she had told us just added to it. Well, we didn't have any money, but she offered us a bottle of water and a ride home. She closed down the store and gave us a ride back home, and as we passed the bushes and trees we had just come from, we all had definitely saw something running, but the lady told us to just ignore it and close your eyes. We finally entered the apartment complex, and she asked us, "Which is yours?" "Apartment D." And as we were getting out of the car, she told us, "You girls stay home at night now. There's no need for you two young girls to be running around at 2 a.m. in the morning. Keep yourselves safe, you hear?" We nodded and said goodbye and thank you. After that night, we never left the apartment complex past 12 a.m. To this day, I'm still shook up about what I had experienced that night, and I also still don't know what it was that followed us that night. Yeah, I don't know. That's horrible, horrible stuff. It's just the curiosity, I guess, is the hard part. What are these things? What are they? What do they want? I mean, if it's truly a skinwalker and they can allegedly assume the form of some kind of canine, it doesn't really look like a werewolf, like the dog man kind of thing. But I've heard stories of them running 40 miles an hour in dog-like form, running like a coyote or whatever, right? With a car. People have seen this. So it could have caught these little kids running, I'm sure, but it didn't. But maybe that's the game. Maybe that's the cat and mouse. I don't know. Very creepy, though. All right, so... Okay. Yeah, this one's another one about the skinwalkers. It has to do with New Mexico. It's from New Mexico, and it says, I want to tell you a story my cousin and I experienced in the summer of 2010. I'm full Navajo, and my cousin's half Native and half Mexican. But he's more Navajo to me. I live with my grandma and dad in the Shiprock in New Mexico over the summer, and in Farmington for school. My cousin and I were 14 when this happened at camp. We knew stuff always happened where we camped. For example, you hear coyotes howl, and where my uncle lives, his dogs are always barking, and he has 5 pit bulls and 3 German shepherds. They're not mean dogs, but when it's night, they start barking, and it sounds like they're fighting outside with something. Well, I'll tell you the story now. Since the age of 7, me and my cousin have always camped in Wheatfield, Arizona, and stay at my uncle's for like a month. My aunt would sometimes come over and camp with us by the lake. We liked to staying there because we like fishing. We're playing with the dogs, eating some mutton. It says. We visit our friend who works at the store there, and we hang out and fish sometimes. He's lived there for half his life and knows almost everything about the place. Well, we sometimes ride his horses around the lake and fish while the horses rest. One night when me and my aunt and my cousin were camping, and my aunt said that she's going to pick up one of her friends and get some munchies for us down in Red Valley and Cove. When she left, we caught a trout and cooked it. We usually hear howling and people partying by the lake, but this particular night, it was just 2 campers on the west side of the lake and one by us who was sleeping. Well, I got a feeling there was something watching us in the tall bushes. I was shining my torchlight on the trees, but I didn't see anything. And then the coyotes started howling on the other side of the lake, the south part of the lake, and they seemed to be getting closer and closer. Well, I was freaking out because we heard one behind us howl. My cousin was putting his tackle box away, but decided to put a giant thick stick on top of it. Only an animal or person could move it. We put everything away as best we could and went in the tent. For a while, we just kept hearing little footsteps behind our tent. We must have been in the tent for some 15 minutes or so when we heard something outside the tent. Like something was digging into my cousin's tackle box. Something else was trying to open my aunt's tent, but luckily I tied fishing string, 30-pound line. I tied fishing string. I guess they tied the tent closed. I don't know. And then something else was putting out the fire, and I know no one was around our campsite, or I would have heard louder footsteps. We had this feeling there were 6 of something, because all at the same time, one was putting out the fire, one was trying to open my aunt's tent, and one was bothering my cousin's tackle box. 3 we thought were behind our tent, and it was a feeling we had. We knew they were skinwalkers because you could smell dead animals and feel something evil was around you. What freaked us out the most was we saw what looked like goat's feet and horns, like a deer walk in front of the fire where we saw it clearly. My heart was pumping so bad I could feel it and hear it. They stayed there and kept trying to scare us, and they did. They kept saying our names, Caleb, and then Dominic, over and over. We had bats, like aluminum bats, with us in the tent, but we were too scared to do something, and I kept thinking, is this my last day in this world? Over and over. I kept praying to God that my aunt would come back soon and quick. I do believe in God, and I know He answered my prayer because, after 7 minutes into saying my prayer, my aunt finally did come back, and when she came back, I was so relieved but still shaking. She said she saw 6 men with skin on them and then ran off. The stick my cousin put the tackle box was 3 inches away from it, and we were all freaked out that night because we heard growls in the middle of the night. I put ash around our tents because I wanted to be protected. And there you go with the ash, the wood ash from fires. Something about that as a protective barrier. This doesn't sound real to some readers, but this story is true. I know they were skinwalkers and they were real. When me and my cousin tell our story, we start shaking because we are still scared of what happened that night. My aunt doesn't speak about it, what she saw, because she believes if she does, they will come back for us. We know there are evil spirits everywhere, and one of them that I really believe in is the skinwalker. We've experienced a lot in the mountains over the summer, but this one is the one that we are afraid of. I'm shaking now, even telling about it, but I wanted to tell our story. If you don't believe us, then go to Wheatfield, Arizona. Little bug. It's flying almost in my nose. In the mountains on the west side of New Mexico and the east side of Arizona, and stay out there and wait for them to come, because I guarantee you something will happen. So that's the story. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. That's all kinds of wrong. Do you think they're just shapeshifters? Do you think there really is these cursed, dark things that were somehow perverted by an act that is just contrary, such as killing your best friend or whatever you love the most? This is an old legend. The stories go way, way back. But apparently they used to be shamans. They used to be just normal shamans, and in their quest for power, they make this dark pact. And then they gain this other kind of power. I don't know. It's horrid. It's absolutely horrid. Now, I will say that there are some stories out there of people that are possessed. And those stories of those possessed people is enough to curl your hair. There are things that these possessed people do that would be very superhuman. Feats of strength, not being able to hold, like 6 grown men, not even to be able to hold a young girl down that's possessed, that she's throwing them around like rag dolls, falling out of windows 3 stories up and landing and laughing and running off, levitating objects. So these are a precedent of possession. So could these skinwalkers be these people that were so corrupted that they became possessed? And that's where these powers or abilities come from, is maybe some form of demonic presence that takes them over and makes them animalistic. I don't know. I mean, it stands to reason. If you believe in possession, then I guess skinwalkers is kind of right in that same area, really, paranormally speaking. But very wild story. Here's another one. This one's coming out of Arizona. And this one might be more spiritual, but let's see what this says. This is from the Navajo reservation, so I guess it is more spiritual. But I'd like to share some of my experiences. I live on the Navajo reservation, and I'm always hearing stories from friends and relatives. As I was growing up, I've had some scary experiences. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Days ago, on April 10th, 2010, and the story's from 2010, I had the weirdest yet scary experience ever. That morning, my mom was worried about my grandmother being alone in her house, so my dad went to go pick her up at her house, 13, maybe even 14 miles outside of Chinle, Chinle, Arizona. So later that day, my parents went to go take her out, and I didn't want to go because they were headed out to Cortez, Colorado. Older people in their casinos. So after they left, I enjoyed staying by myself all throughout the afternoon and evening as it got dark around 8 p.m. I was so bored and there was absolutely nothing to do. Well, that night I made sure that my parents' vehicles were locked and that the front and back doors were locked and the windows in the house were all shut and locked. As time passed by, it was already midnight, so I decided to watch a little television, and I remember falling asleep on the couch, and the TV was still on. So at around 2:50 a.m., or 10 minutes to 3, I woke up and turned the TV off and walked to my room to change into my PJs. And after I did, I went to go brush my teeth. And as I finished, I walked into the kitchen to turn off the light, and right when I was ready to flick it off, the clock began to ring. My mom got this clock that makes noise every hour, and it was 3 a.m., and right when the clock turned 3, I heard a knock on the front door. I thought to myself, who in the hell would be here at my house at 3 a.m.? So I was really confused. Then I heard another knock and another. So I thought to myself again, do I open it? And as I started walking towards the door, it was about 4 inches from looking through the peephole. The knock became louder. So I backed away and thought, how come the security light didn't come on? Okay, before I go on, my front door has like a little entrance, and there's like a little room before you can enter or walk outside. Excuse me. And the security light always comes on when somebody steps into that room. I don't know, but I can't really explain it, right? Anyways, as I was saying, I started to get scared. And as I was walking away from the door, the knock became banging noises. So that continued for like 2 minutes, and I finally went towards the door again. I unlocked the top lock of the door, and the banging became even louder. It seemed like whatever it was going to break down the door. So as I was still by the door, so scared, I turned on the outside light to think that whatever it was would go away, but it didn't work. The banging got louder, and I was ready to call for help, but I hurried and looked through to the peephole, and as I did, the banging stopped, and there was nobody in sight. The experience was weird and scary, so I hope you enjoyed my little experience, and I have no clue what was banging on the door. It was weird. All I can say is it's just a mystery. Oh, thank you, Paradox. I appreciate that. That's really cool. Thank you so much, brother. That's awesome. But yeah, that's more of a spiritual experience. But again, there's lots of old ghosts. All right, let's see what's next here. So that's all the Skinwalker-esque stories that we had. I hope you enjoyed those. I think they're pretty cool. But we have more of the ghostly encounters. So I guess that was a good transition, right? Skinwalker, ghosts on a Navajo area, and then ghosts. That was almost a perfect segue, I think. I think that was pretty clever. I wish I'd thought of it, but I just opened it up, and that's what happened. So, gotta love serendipity, ladies and gentlemen. How many of you here? 59 of you here. Thank you guys for being here and being with us. I hope you enjoy the Paranormal Portal, and I hope if you're enjoying the Paranormal Portal, you will subscribe to the channel. I would love to see you guys stick around. We got more to go here yet tonight, but I just wanted to acknowledge all of you here watching. Thank you so much. Your support means everything to us. If you're enjoying what you're watching, also please hit the like. Those likes go a long way into help supporting the show and to get it recommended through the algorithm, which is, all geared around numbers. So the more numbers we have, the better. So if you wouldn't mind hitting that like, if you like what you're hearing, I would really appreciate it. So I want to take a moment also and say tomorrow night on the show, we are going to be welcoming our very own psychic, Mrs. Deborah Varner, to the show. She's going to be here to do psychic readings, live call-in readings to callers of the show. So if you're hanging out tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Pacific time, you can join us right here on the portal. And the number that you see above my head is the number you'll call tomorrow night, and you can get a free reading from Deb. And she's really a phenomenal, amazing person, and she's been doing this with us for years. So she's got a lot of amazing testimonials coming back from those readings as well. People writing into the show and telling us, how amazing that was, how she was right on, and it really helps so much. And sure enough, what she said did happen, or things came together as she said they would. So there's a lot of amazing feedback. Now, I would never bring someone on the show I didn't 100% believe in. I 100% believe in Deb. She's been an amazing asset to us here on the show in many ways, and also in helping with people dealing with really dark things out there. Her and Sean and Joel and have been instrumental, and Barb, who helps with PTSD. So they've been amazing, all of them. But Deb will be on the show tomorrow. So If you're looking for a reading to see what's going on in your world, tune in tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here on YouTube. And you can be a part of the show and maybe get a reading, see what's coming up in your world. Okay, so this next story is coming from Virginia, and it has to do with haunted places. It says, I'm 23 years old now, and I'm living in Las Vegas. When this story took place, I was about 13 or 14 years old and living in Virginia. My aunt, before she had built her current home, lived on her husband's mother's land. She owned a beautiful old mansion on a farm of at least 100 acres. Wow, it sounds amazing. My aunt and uncle lived in a cottage near the main house. They have 2 children who I would often babysit while my aunt and uncle went out. This particular incident happened when I was babysitting for them. It was around 6 in the evening. I had just given my cousins dinner, and they were watching television in their living room. The cottage they lived in was a 1-story house with a small basement. The entrance leads into a hall with a bathroom at the end and the living room and their bedroom to the left and right. I was cleaning up in the kitchen, which is at the end of the hall, and just to the left of the bathroom, I could hear the TV in the background. It was still pretty quiet for the most part, and as I was busy doing whatever in the kitchen, I heard some magazines fall in the bathroom. The bathroom. Oh, I love those bathrooms that have like the magazine rack there. I always called the bathroom the study or my den. I got to go to the den. What can I say? I'm pretty high class. That's all I can tell you. Where was I? No, I just saw that the magazines were falling and it just killed me. I could hear the TV in the background. I heard some magazines fall in the bathroom. And I do not believe this was due to anything paranormal. It just simply shifted and fell. But what happened next was not so easily explained. I heard the magazines fall, so I went into the bathroom to pick them up. The bathroom is small, with the toilet directly in front of you when you walk in, and the shower and sink are to both sides of it. There's a small window that is never opened, and I'm not sure it would even open very easily. The magazine rack is next to the toilet. That just cracks me up. I love it. It's so classy. Magazines had fallen when I went in the bathroom. As I was leaning over with my back to the door, I suddenly felt a strong breeze blowing on my back, and at the same time, the door to the bathroom slammed shut. The door opens into the bathroom, and the wind should have blown it against the wall, not the opposite way. Well, I bolted up so fast and just stood there for a minute trying to figure it out. It was very strange, and my cousins were still busy watching television, and they did not feel any strange breezes that seemed to come from nowhere, and I still can't figure it out. It's in this same old house, my aunt has heard a strange noise coming from her kids' baby monitors that sounded like an old milking machine. Well, she went into her son's bedroom and could hear nothing. Very weird, especially since the farm used to be a dairy farm. Wow. That's pretty cool. I just love the magazines. That's so awesome. Oh God. Okay, sorry. I'm just really tickles me. I don't know. I haven't even thought about magazine racks in the bathroom for years, but now that I hear it again, it brings back a lot of memories. All right. The next one's coming from Virginia. It says, when I was in high school, I dated a guy who lived on a very haunted farm in Virginia. Sounds familiar. This farm was a multi-million-dollar horse farm where they bred and trained show and race horses. There are at least 10 barns on the farm used for various reasons. One of the barns held about 20 old antique carriages. Excuse me. I got to get a drink. Hold on. Well, these carriages are old and big, and to move them takes a crane. There are guards that worked for them on the farm that made nightly rounds around the farm to make sure everything was fine. No one could get in the gate without them knowing. The barn with carriages was used for tours. Each carriage had a plaque explaining the history. One morning, one of the guards went into the carriage barn, and all of the carriages had been moved around and put in the wrong places. Well, needless to say, the guards was really freaked out. It's not possible to move all the carriages in one night, and especially without anyone knowing. The guards have also shared with me that some of their scary experiences doing their rounds. One night, we'll call him Buddy, was doing his rounds, checking on all the barns, when he noticed a light on in one of them that wasn't supposed to be on. A light was on in the room where they have a TV and a microwave, and there's a room like this in every barn. But Buddy went into the barn, hung out for a minute watching TV, and there was no one in the barn, and he would have seen them if there were. Well, he hung out for a little while and then left. He shut off all the lights, and as soon as he shut the door to the barn, every light in the barn came on. Needless to say, he ran for his truck and got out of there. You know, things like that would seem to be such a huge presence. I mean, to turn on every light instantaneously, to me, would indicate a pretty powerful thing. Moving around all these old carriages when it would be impossible to do that, especially without the aid of some kind of machinery. That to me is just amazing. And it would seem to indicate an incredibly powerful presence. It doesn't sound evil necessarily, just sounds like, it just wants to be noticed or known. But man, that's a huge display of power for sure. All right, the next one is coming from New York. Let's see what's going on in New York tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It's not actually tonight. This story is from 2009. It says, it's got a bunch of fluffy stuff at the front, so. Okay. As I mentioned in my other story, after I wrote the first, and I don't know what that means, NA story, I've been having really, really strange dreams, unlike my other ones. I'm sorry this one references another story. I have no idea. They're not in any kind of order, so when they do this, it's really troubling because it's hard to build up any continuity from story to story. But these dreams are more intense. This morning I was lying down in bed, and then all of a sudden felt something really heavy on my chest, and I passed out because I just couldn't breathe. When I woke up, or thought I did, I was in the kitchen getting a sandwich, and there was a knock at the door. Well, I walked over to the door and looked to see who was there, and I saw one of my cousins there. She had an angry look on her face, and her right hand was on the doorknob, while her left hand was in a fist against the wall. I knew right away that wasn't my cousin. I knew it was something evil going to attack me, but I opened the door anyway. Not like, oh, my cousin opened. There was something that made me open the door. My hand opened the door on its own. As soon as I cracked the door open, the thing in the form of my favorite cousin just rammed its shoulder into the door, causing it to hit me in the face and then put me against the wall. Who the hell's Nero? Usually Nero is in my dreams like this, but in this one, he wasn't, but in my head, I could hear him yelling, "Wake up!" So this thing was holding me against the wall and staring me in the eye, and it looked irritated, like I did something to it. The thing started talking to me, and it said, "You belong in hell. You must come to hell," etc. about hell. So I was freaking out really bad and tried to say Jesus, but I couldn't talk. So I kept trying and saying it in my head. Then Lord Jesus knows how, but I managed to say his name out loud. This part is freaky because when the thing let me go, I fell through the floor and continued falling until I woke up. When I woke up, I could feel 3 things holding me down. I know it was three because there was one hand on my left and right leg, each holding them, one hand on my left arm and right arm, while one huge thing was sitting on my upper torso. I kept trying to scream for my mom because I could see her walking down the hallway, but it wasn't her. When I looked on the floor near my closet, Nero looked like he was being held down, but I couldn't see anything. I don't know what Nero is. I don't like these stories that just reference things like everybody just is riveted to one story to the next. But I started struggling, and I managed to move my hands, legs, and head a little, but I couldn't move the rest of my body. And the more I moved my limbs, and head, the more pressure I felt on them. The thing on my torso started talking to Nero in some language I couldn't understand. I only speak Spanish, English, Jamaican, and Japanese. Oh, listen to that bragging. So I think that they knew that. While they were talking, Nero kept looking at me like his eyes were going to pop out of his head. The thing then turned to me and said, "You surprise me every time, Crystal. You always get stronger." This is very Twilighty. That's exactly what we want. After that, I can remember Nero breaking out of this demon's, I think it is, grip, and then he ran to my bed like he was going to attack the thing on top of me, and that's all I can recall. I'm done with that story. Never mind, I can't end on that story. That story sucks. No offense, but it's just too Twilighty. All right, let's see what this one is. No, not this one either. I don't want to do sleep paralysis. Jesus, there's a whole slew of them here. This one is Apparitions, Voices, and Touches, coming out of Michigan. It says, our home has quite a lot of paranormal things. My mom, my two sisters, and myself have all encounters with something paranormal. Last Sunday, as I was arriving home from softball practice, I got that little churning in my stomach that something terrible was going to happen. As I stated, I had to practice, so I needed a shower. When I got into the bathroom, I felt a chill, but that didn't make sense because it was a good 70 degrees outside, and I went to get a towel from the basement. My cat was down there, but when I went to pet her, she looked behind me and hissed. Well, that alone scared the hell out of me, but when I turned around, nothing was there. I was frightened, so I grabbed a towel and just went back upstairs. When I was all done with my shower, I wrapped a towel around me and went to get my heart pendant necklace from the counter, and I heard a loud click. I turned around to tell who was ever at the door to get out, but when I turned, nobody was there. I thought it must have been my sister playing a trick since everyone else was gone, but when I got to the living room, I saw my sister left me a note saying that she was around town with friends and would be back around 8 o'clock. Later that night, I kept seeing a little shadow of a girl in a blue dress running around the house. And that night, I did not sleep. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Little shadows, little apparitions. I don't know. It's, every one of these stories, I don't know. They're all represented as true. I can't be sure they are. Like the Twilighty one, I don't know. I don't have a lot of time for those. They're just too much information. It's like these incredible relationships with these spiritual entities that's bordering on this forbidden love and stuff. And it's just like, oh God, please don't do that to me. So I never bring things to the show that are not true. I bring things to the show that are represented as true, but I didn't pre-read those. So, I'm always surprised, just as you are. So I apologize when some like that sneak through. They're actually very disappointing to me because that's not the show I'm trying to bring you guys. But anyway, I guess that's going to wrap it up for us, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. Thank you so much. I love you all very much. My cat hisses at everything, Jordan says. I hiss at her too. It's not personal. I guess that'll work, Jordan. Yeah. Seeing what you guys are saying in chat, the vampires in the movie sparkle more than Cha. Yeah. Whoever heard of glittery, what does he say? Whoever heard of glittery vampire shining like a dime in a goat's something. I'm not going to try to imagine what that says. Twilight vampires are not true vampires. That's true. The whole shiny vampire thing. Now, I watched the Twilight movies and they were just these, sappy, insipid little things, but I like those kind of movies. So not the sappy insipid, but just the whole werewolves and vampires. I'm a big fan of like the old Lon Chaney, Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi movies where they had like the Dracula versus Frankenstein and things like that. So when I saw that these movies, the Twilight movies had these, head-to-head battles and stuff, I was like, well, okay, maybe I can make through that sappy stuff because they're going to be doing battle, and that's pretty cool. And the battle parts were pretty decent, but I don't know, the whole Bella Swan, the reluctant, awkward kid, whatever. it was just a little too much. And the shiny vampire thing, it's like, no, I think vampires aren't shiny. I don't think that they hang out and go to school and hang out with normal teenagers too much. I don't think that, they're living this rich, privileged life in a mansion somewhere in the mountains. They're supposed to be sleeping in dirt and coffins and stuff. I mean, they just wrecked the whole vampire mythos in so many ways. The werewolf mythos I thought was at least interesting as a counterbalance. That's kind of cool. That's kind of a cool idea. But man, did they destroy the vampire mythos. Brutally destroyed it. But anyway, you got to believe what you want to believe. I don't know. But I guess it's going to wrap it up for us here tonight. Again, tomorrow night, Deborah Varner will be joining us, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want a little sneak into what's going on in your life or what's coming up in your life, romance, love, professional, questions, your jobs, finances, just the general readings, it's all up to you. When you call in, she will just say, "What's your name?" You'll say your name, and then she'll say, "What do you want to know about?" You can say, "I'm wondering about my job." And then boom, she'll go. And so that's one of the things that impresses me most about Deb is that she doesn't fish. She doesn't do that psychological banter. Do you take the letter H, living or deceased? It's like, well, everybody's got an H somewhere. And that whole John Edwards kind of thing where you just banter your way towards some kind of material. And I'm not saying John Edwards is fake, but it's less real to me than what Deb does, because Deb doesn't fish. She just says, "Here's what I'm getting. They're telling me this. They're telling me that," and it's really cool. She's, in my opinion, the real deal. I'm sure you'll believe it if you tune in if you're not familiar with her, but she's helped hundreds and hundreds of people on the show, and I've heard from many of those people telling me how amazing that was and how much that helped them. So if you're looking to just take a peek ahead and find out what's going on in your world, give us a call tomorrow night from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. right here on YouTube. Again, the same phone number. So I hope you guys will join us. It's going to be a great time. So that's going to wrap it up for me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. All right, guys. Love you bunches. And I'll see you tomorrow night. So hope you'll join us then. Take care, everybody. And sweet dreams.